All right, let's do another problem. This one's number 8, string to integer, atio, atoi. Implement the myatoi string function, which converts a string to a 32-bit signed integer. The algorithm for myatoi is as follows. Number 1, white space. Ignore any leading white space. All right. Number 2, signedness. Determine the sign by checking if the next character is minus or plus, assuming positivity is neither if neither is present. Pretty sure that should say if. Number 3, conversion. Read the integer by skipping leading zeros until a non-digit character is encountered or the end of the string is reached. Okay, if no digits were read, then the result is 0. Okay, cool. Rounding. If the integer is out of the 32-bit signed integer range, we should figure out what those exact numbers are, but it's negative 2 to the power of 31, and then also 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. Then round the integer to remain in the range. Specifically, integers less than negative 2 to the power of 31 should be rounded to negative 2 to the power of 31, and integers greater than this max number is rounded to the max number. Return the integer as the final result. Okay, for example, you have 42, and this outputs 42. The underlined characters are what is read in, and the caret is the current reader position. Okay, so that's presumably this is an easy one because it doesn't have a leading space, doesn't have signs, and it doesn't have any numbers in there. So you have negative, and then also this 0, 42. Okay, so if you put this, even if you have a leading 0, you put this into an int function in Python, I believe you're going to get what you want, right? Let's do an int, and let's do a string, and let's do that. It should print 42, right? Printed 42 right here. Okay, so that's good for us. And then you have things like this where 1, 3, 7, and then you encounter letters right here. And then by the time you get to the letter, you stop. Okay, so no characters read because there's no leading white space. No characters read because there is neither a minus or a plus. Okay, so first you check for white space, and then you check for sign, and then you collect as many numbers as you can until you see a non-number. So here you see a number. Okay, so step 1 is deal with white space. Step 2 is deal with signs. Step 3 is deal with digits. Okay, so looks like it's pretty clear about what to do. Deal with white space, deal with signs, if there is a sign, and then deal with digits. So yeah, it looks pretty clear based on reading stops at the first non-digit character W. Okay, so if it first starts with W, then get out of there. Okay, so let's deal with white space first. Looks like the first thing we have to do. So imagine I is 0, and let's just iterate through this, right? So first off, let's deal with white space. So if there's white space, let's increment I. So let's say if this equals white space, let's just increment. Yeah, so for this, can we even put this in a while loop? Possibly, right? So while this is white space, right? And we're starting at I, then increment I. That seems fairly straightforward. All right, so let's deal with signs. So I guess the sign can start as none. Let's deal with signs. If this is a sign, so if it's plus or it's minus, then we have a sign, right? Sign equals S here, right? If there's no sign, then we assume, I guess we can just assume the sign is plus. So we deal with signs. So increment I here, and then I guess while S at I is numeric, I believe that's a function, then we append to some, digit string. So digit plus equals S I. So we do that until it's done, and then we're going to return the int of this digit string that we are creating. And if the sign is plus, then we are going to return the positive version. If it's minus, then we're going to return the negative version, right? And then we have to round it. Now I don't know what the limits are here, right? But you'd imagine there's a upper limit is something like 2 to the power of 31, and then the lower limit is 2 to the negative 2 to the power of 31 minus, one of these is minus 1, positive is minus 1. All right, so it seems like this is the steps that they have laid out. They've been pretty clear about all the steps here. So let's run this, see if it works. I'm probably missing some of these cases. This is kind of I don't know if this is a great interview question, but it's definitely an interview question that is very easy to mess up. There's definitely cases that we're going to forget here. For example, this one, right? Like we forgot to increment I. String index is out of range. Oh, that as well, right? We want to make sure that the string index is in range, right? So for all of these, so for while I is smaller than the length of S, and this happens, right? If I is still smaller than the length of S, and this collected thing, and then if I is smaller than the length of less, invalid int, invalid literal for int, interesting. Huh. I don't see why this, so I see what's happening. What's happening is that for some reason these are leaking out as numeric. Maybe I'm not using that Python function correctly. So, oh, you know what? Am I overwriting digit? It's weird that I see. So if you pass an empty string into here, it it's going to cause an error. So I forgot to deal with this issue right here. No digits were read, right? So if no digits are read at all, so if length of digits is 0, then we're going to return 0, right? Else, if the sign is positive, we're going to return this positive. Else, if the sign is negative, then we're going to turn this negative, right? Okay, great. So yeah, for an interview question, pretty easy to mess up these. We also see that there's an upper limit and a lower limit. You see this? We'll probably, if we submit it, probably get to the same problem where we're having like an overly negative number. And I just want to see if the lower limit's the same that I had. Yeah, so it's 23 to the power, so it's negative 2 to the power of 31, right? So instead of calculating this every time for runtime, you should probably just put the static number, right? So if it's negative, you want the larger of these two numbers, right? So go ahead and take the max of this and this, right? That lower limit, and then we also have a positive upper limit, right? Which we calculated before, where you're going to want to take the minimum of that digit or this positive upper limit, right? So great. So I believe they basically gave you the answer. There's no algorithm to figure out here. This is just a coding exercise to make sure you have all the cases. I think because they explained it so much, they actually laid out, like, here's step 1, here's step 2, and here's step 3, right? And then here they have this part. If no digits are read, return 0. So no digits were read, return 0. They have rounding, so they even tell you about, you know, exactly how to calculate it. So almost every line in this code is part of the program description, right? Even signness, assuming positivity if neither is present. So you don't have to figure out any part of it yourself, but you do have to, I don't know, read the problem and do it. All right, thanks a lot for watching. I guess there was nothing to draw for this one, but I would probably put this in the easy bucket, mostly because, like, you didn't have to figure anything out. See you at Spiral Matrix. Thanks a lot. Take care.